Mr. President, everyone knows the old adage that a picture is worth 1,000 words. I've been an avid photographer since I was a child. I have a strong sense of that. So I thought I'd provide a few examples today, because sometimes words aren't enough. I've often spoken about the horrific toll on civilians from landmines. These tiny explosives, about the size of a hockey puck or a can of soup, can kill a child and blow the legs or arms off an adult. And they're triggered by the victim. In other words, unlike a gun that a soldier aims and fires or a bomb that's dropped and explodes on a target, landmines sit there and wait for their victims. Oftentimes, they wait for the victims long after the war is over, long after the soldiers and the armies have packed up and left. Landmines keep waiting for their victims. It could be hours or days or weeks, often years. But however long it is after they're scattered, hidden beneath a layer of sand or dirt, they explode. An unsuspecting person, whether a combatant or an innocent civilian, steps on it or triggers it with a plow or a wheelbarrow or a bicycle. And that person's life is changed forever. In many countries where there are few doctors, landmine victims bleed to death. Those who survive with a leg or both legs gone are the lucky ones. This girl is an example of who I'm talking about. We don't know her nationality, but the picture tells a lot. She's learned to walk on artificial legs. So life has been made immeasurably harder because of a landmine that probably cost less than $2. I have a granddaughter, not much older than that. These photographs tell a similar story. None of these people are combatants. Each are facing lives of pain and sometimes in their communities, stigmatization because of weapons that are designed, planned, created to be indiscriminate. Not to go after armies, but to go after civilians. Now, the Leahy War Victims Fund has helped some of them, as this photograph taken in Vietnam shows. I'm proud of the Leahy War Victims Fund. My wife Marcelle and I have traveled all over the world to work with it to see where it might help. But I wish, Mr. President, that there was no need for it because there would be no landmines. And over the years, at least as people around the world became aware of the landmine problem, they took action. The United States Senate was the first legislative body in the world to ban exports of anti-personnel landmines. And I'm proud of writing that amendment. Other countries soon followed our example. When I get calls from parliamentarians in other countries saying we passed the Leahy anti-landmine amendment, it just filled me with pride. But then others who really helped, like Canada's former Foreign Minister Lloyd Axworthy, and the international campaign to ban landmines, they put together an international treaty that outlawed the weapons, and 161 countries have joined that treaty. I regret the United States, of all the NATO countries, is the only one that has not joined it, even though the U.S. military has not used anti-personnel mines for 22 years, despite 2 long wars. On June 27th, though, the Obama administration finally took a step. It's an incremental step, but it's a significant one, to put the United States on a path to join the treaty. Although the U.S. has not produced or purchased anti-personnel mines since the 1990s, the White House announced as a matter of official policy It will no longer produce or otherwise acquire anti-personnel mines, nor will the Pentagon replenish its stockpile of mines as they become obsolete. Now, our closest allies and many others around the world welcome this step, something they did years before. They welcome it even though it falls far short of what supporters of the treaty have called for. But they did see it as a first step. But one senior member of the House of Representatives immediately accused President Obama of ignoring U.S. military commanders, some of whom have defended the use of landmines, just as the military defended poison gas a century ago when nations moved to ban it. And this member of the House said the president, quote, owes our military an explanation for ignoring their advice. And went on to say this decision represents a, quote, expensive solution in search of a non-existent problem. And then a member of our body, of the Senate, called the announcement a brazen attempt by the president to circumvent the constitutional responsibility of the Senate to provide advice and consent to international treaties that bind the United States. While these are strong words, they make great sound bites for the press. But as sometimes happens with sound bites, the truth lies elsewhere. Over the years, the White House has consulted closely with the Pentagon, including about this decision, and the policy it just announced simply makes official what has been an informal fact for at least 17 years through 3 presidential administrations. It also ignores the fact that the U.S. has neither joined the treaty nor has the President sent it to the Senate for ratification. Having not joined it or sent it to the Senate, the President has obviously not circumvented the Senate's advice and consent role. And it ignores that every one of our NATO allies and most of our coalition partners have renounced anti-personnel mines, as have dozens of countries that could never dream of having a powerful modern army like we do. Countries that look at the United States, most powerful nation on earth, but they felt they could get rid of their landmines. And the naysayers' argument is simple. It goes like this: the United States is no longer causing the misery captured in these photographs, so why should we join the treaty? Does that mean they also oppose the convention, the rights of persons with disabilities, like the crippled in this photograph? Or do they oppose the chemical weapons treaty and every other treaty dealing with international relations that the United States has joined since the time of George Washington? Does the fact that we're not causing a problem, that we do not use landmines or chemical weapons, absolve us from having a responsibility to be part of an international treaty to stop it? Of course not. The world looks to the United States for leadership, and we ought to show leadership. If the U.S. had accepted that argument in 1992, the U.S. Senate accepted the argument now being made in 1992, this body would never have voted on my amendment to ban the export of landmine, when they voted 100 to nothing for the most conservative, most liberal members. They voted to ban the U.S. exports of anti-personnel mines. Our mines weren't causing the problem around the world at that time, but I suppose those in the House who criticize President Obama today would say the entire Senate was wrong 22 years ago. Those 100 Democrats and Republicans who voted back then to ban U.S. exports of anti-personnel mines understood that while the U.S. may not have been causing the problem, we have to be part of the solution. Same holds true today. In 1996, President Clinton called on the Pentagon to develop alternatives to anti-personnel mines, whether they're technological or doctrinal alternatives. He was commander-in-chief, but the Pentagon largely ignored him. But now, 18 years later, it needs to be done. Not at some unspecified time in the future, but at a reasonable deadline, because it can be done. Now, I'm not so naive to think that a treaty will prevent every last person on earth from using landmines. I've visited too many landmine fields in parts of the world to think that. But if people use them, they pay a price for using them. Bashar al-Assad used poison gas, which violates all treaties. But look at the political price he paid. Are those who oppose the Landmine Treaty so dismissive of the benefits of outlawing and stigmatizing a weapon like IEDs that pose a danger to our own troops? We go to another country, or are humanitarian people? Look at the troops that were sent to Bosnia recently after flooding, because the landmines that are there, we knew before the flooding where they were, but now we don't know where they were. Our people were there putting their lives in danger to help clear them off. So rather than opposing a treaty that make it a war crime to use landmines against our troops, why not support the mine-breaching technology they need to protect themselves? Mr. President, I always come back to the photographs. I've met many people like these. They may not be Americans, but what happened to them happens to thousands of others like them each year. You know, the United States can help to stop that. That's a moral issue. Let's speak to our basic morality and do it. I yield the floor.